over, like over, so you have a blank piece of paper. And as you know, I like to do techniques from the classroom. And since we are talking about this test, I thought we would do a KWL thing. What do you know about Papa? What would you like to learn? Yeah, what do you know about this test? That's okay, you know. Whatever you know and you put down there is okay. If you have 3 things, well, that'll be fine. Sharon, tell me one thing you know about it.
That it must be done student teach.
Yes, absolutely. Lee, what do you know?
That it's similar to the SATs and the ACTs that we took in high school. It reminds me very much of that.
Rachel?
You can take the whole test at once or different modules at a time.
Joan?
It's really hard.
It's really hard. Another thing that you know?
This is really not related to the test. I said,
That's okay.
I know that I'm still not very proficient in math.
And Mr. Novosel tried so
He
hard.
did a great job.
Mhm.
He did.
Anytime you have a question, honestly, he will help you. Sharon?
I covered my 3.
Okay,
I said there's 3 different parts, math, reading, and reading.
yes. And
I
Joan?
wrote about the reading part in the essay. It has to be 600 words, maximum 1,000 words. Yeah.
We're going to get you through this. We're going to make you feel happy about this. About it. Well, that's a
I
big.
took it once already.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was pretty hard.
It was
Yeah.
hard.
It was really hard.
Well, and what do you? The purpose of this is, why did they make this little torture item for you? Do you know why? What are they looking for?
Quality educators.
Quality educators. Because now I'm at least 150 years old and started 300 years ago. And when I started, it was people took and were in education because they couldn't do anything else. You know, that's always, wow, you only work 9 months a year, you know, blah. And now education is so accountable for everything we do, i.e., you know, test scores and mainly, that we need a way to make sure that those people who are taking on the classroom of the future are accredited and accountable for the education of our children. When you think about that, what the educator's job is the brain, the growth of the brain of our future citizens. So it's who's going to push your wheelchair. You want to make sure the doctor who works on your head is competent. And so they make up these tests. The only issue is if you're not a good test taker. That's when it becomes an issue, I guess. Now, I don't want you to be offended by the title of this. Please don't be offended. This is a book I keep on my desk all the time. When I was a teacher, a principal, a district administrator, and my job here. This is, if you're feeling at all insecure about grammar and style of writing, this book is wonderful. And it says it in lovely little non-formal ways. It's not something that you have to get deep into. It gives you the topic and there you go. So it's on my approved list for if you're going to look into something on grammar, if you're feeling insecure about it, that's a nice desk reference. This is another thing. The Praxis was the test that everybody took, and a lot of these books are floating around. Former students at Eastern have them who took this course, and I think it was in 2011. But this also has, it's not as instructive and to the point as that, but there are a lot of questions in here, practice questions. So if you know somebody who took the Praxis, here's another book. But I will honestly tell you, there is so much on the web. I was inundated with options on the web. So my best advice is whatever you're looking for is on the web. It's just search time. And I thought a good way to open up our discussion would be to do this video. If we just take a couple minutes and watch this video that Pearson put out called "What Do I Need to Learn?" Because isn't that really the question? What do I need to learn? Do I already know it? So I thought this was a nice, concise way to learn it. If I don't, okay. Little Mr. Mouse.
There is no job more important to our future as a nation than the job of an educator. Along with your college studies and practice teaching, taking and passing the tests required for your educator license or certificate is a critical part of becoming a teacher or administrator. Each educator licensure or certification test has been custom developed for your state based on your state's requirements and fully aligned with your state's student and educator standards and state curriculum documents. To perform well on the tests, let's consider these 4 questions. What's on the test? What do I already know? What do I need to learn? How can I do my best? Now, let's explore how to answer each of these questions. First, let's find out what content or subject matter knowledge is going to be tested. Many examinees may not realize how important it is to study the test framework or test objectives, which can be found on the test program website. The test framework for your field will help you understand the content that you will be responsible for. Using the test framework is one of the best things you can do to make sure you are fully prepared on the day of the test. Each test framework is divided into sub-areas or domains, which define the major content areas of the test. Objectives or competencies that detail the knowledge and skills that an educator needs to master, and descriptive or focus statements, which provide examples of the type of This is another good way to help determine the areas in which you are already strong and the areas that may need further review. You should also look for practice tests on the test program website and see if an extended or full-length practice test is available for your test field. If there is, take the practice test just as if you were at an actual test administration. Once you've completed the practice test, compare your answers to the answer key at the end of the test. This is another good way to identify content areas that you know well and areas in which you may need more preparation. This examinee answered only 3 of the 6 questions for Objective 1 correctly, which suggests that the content covered by Objective 1 is an area that the examinee may want to study further. You should also answer the constructed response question or performance assignments at the end of the practice test. You may want to ask one of your professors or a colleague to review your response. He or she can help identify areas of strength and offer suggestions for improvement. Determining what you already know is important. Even more important is answering our third question: what do I need to learn more about? Once you have identified which content areas you feel less confident about, it's time to collect the resources you'll need and create a study plan and schedule. So first, let's identify and collect appropriate resources. These may include textbooks from your university or college courses, textbooks being used in your state's elementary and secondary schools, class notes, state regulations and curriculum documents, and publications from national organizations in your field. If you're having trouble identifying helpful resources, ask your professors or colleagues. They will be glad to help steer you in the right direction. Next, you'll want to design a study plan and schedule that will enable you to cover the material you need to review before your test date. A carefully thought out plan will make studying easier and more effective. Some people find it helpful to form or join a study group with others preparing to take the same test. If you feel you need more preparation in a particular part of the test, you may want to consider additional coursework in these areas. Now, we need to consider our fourth question. In addition to bolstering your content knowledge, it is also helpful to develop the effective test-taking strategies described in the study guide so that you can do your best. Always read, listen to, and follow all test directions carefully. When answering multiple choice questions, read and evaluate all 4 answer choices before deciding which one is the best answer. Your results on the multiple choice part of the test will be based on the number of items you answer correctly. It is better to eliminate as many alternatives as possible and then guess wisely than to leave a question blank. When responding to a constructed response question, you'll also want to read the directions carefully. The directions will describe how your response will be scored. In most cases, your response will be scored on how well you fulfill the purpose of the assignment, the depth and accuracy of your subject matter knowledge, the quality and relevance of the supporting information or examples you provide, and the soundness of your argument. Make sure your response satisfies each of these scoring criteria, which can also be found in the study guide for your field, along with score scales and sample responses to the constructed response questions. The preparation strategies and resources that we have reviewed, including the test framework, study guide, practice tests, and preparation videos, can all be found on your state's testing program website. Answering the 4 questions we began with, taking a systematic approach to preparing for the test, and giving yourself adequate time to study effectively are the keys to performing well and getting your best score. Today's educators are a vital bridge between their students and the knowledge and skills those students will need in the global environment of the 21st century. As you prepare for your educator certification test, you are reviewing what you will need to know to help your students achieve their goals. Good studying and good luck.
Okay. One moment while I sing to you and get us ready for the next.
There we go.
On your agenda, what I tried to do was take, because as I looked at the job of doing a prep course or what do I need to know course, I thought that we'd look at it as a whole and then break it down into the parts of reading and writing. So on your agenda, I listed some information on general strategies for test taking, because no matter how much you know or how much you're concerned about what you know, a lot of the success of a test is how you take it. Now, this may seem funny, but one of the stress relieving things you can do for yourself is if you're in a fritz and you're doing in the middle of a test, if you take your finger and blow on it, for some reason, it's a stress reliever. Whether it's the fact that you are now focusing on your finger and blowing on it, I'm not sure. But there in the middle of your test, when you're taking it and you think, I can't, try that, see if it works. Think of me if it works, don't think of me if it doesn't work. The first thing I'm going to talk about is questions, and under the questions, as you look at questions within your test, the identification of the type of question and what is the main idea of what are they asking for? What do they want you to do? So I would say then you have to analyze, synthesize, and apply the knowledge. In other words, a lot of the questions in the reading part and you need to really sit and look at it and think about it. And what I did, and I'm not really sure if you can underline on the test. I know that we can use a yellow sheet. No. But as I was reading over the questions, I underlined, like, they have certain key words within those questions. And that's where your attention needs to go. You're reading, and then you need to look very carefully at the key words. When we go over these tests, I'll talk to you about which ones and how to look for those key words. That's the analysis, and then once you analyze it, you apply what it says, not rushing through. And the video also talked about the multiple choice test. Look at the ones you know first. You know this answer doesn't make sense at all. Neither does this answer. So it's between these two. Which one makes the most sense? And do your best guess. Do your best guess. The other thing they may do is you'll get questions that you think, you know, I answered one like this. This seems like the same question, but it's worded differently. So the key is be a very conscientious, careful reader. Don't just jump into the question and go, I think it's this, and I move on. While time is of the importance, you're not in a race. You need to do your best and take your time. Make sure that your answers, did you ever take a test and your answers were off by one when you were doing the bubbles? This would be,
There's no bubbles.
oh, isn't there a square? No?
If you're doing the online one on the computer, there's no bubbles.
Okay, all right, well then don't worry about the bubbles, they aren't bubbling.
And that you can mark, like the
Yeah,
clip, right?
yeah,
You can mark and go back.
You can mark the ones that you're not sure, and
And
then at
then
the
go-
end you navigate
You
through the
review.
ones that you're.
Good. Because that's what I was gonna say. Do the ones you are sure of. Because if you need think time, you save that to the end. You know, go through the ones that give you a good positive attitude. All right, I know this. This is a great one. Blah, blah, blah. Go down and save those ones that are causing you emotional stress till the end. Be prepared for questions, and they do have these, that use the words least, except, or not. Watch for those words. which is the best, which is the least, which is, watch for those words within the questions. Skip the questions you find to be extremely difficult. Skip those and come back. Keep track of the time. Read all possible answers before selecting one. Did you ever pick an answer, you think, oh, that's it? And then you read three more down, and then, oh, I think that one's better. Oh. I know yesterday I was doing some of the questions, and there were a couple that I thought, oh, that's perfect. And then I got down to answers, and I thought, it's good I didn't mark that, because that one's even better. So read through uncommitted, and then make your decision. And then it says, check all answers. Be sure that you check them. And I think on the other side, the first statement that says, don't worry about your score as you take the test. Because you do that, don't you? Oh, I think I missed 4. I think I've missed 5 of these already, and they're only, then you work yourself up. So that's the time you do, and get yourself out of that thought. So don't worry about your score during the test. When you go home or in the car, turn the radio up loud and sing home, and then see if it dissipates a little. I have 4, purpose and format. Reading comprehension refers to the ability to understand, analyze, and evaluate. The key to doing well on the reading section is to read carefully and make correct judgments and conclusions about what you have read. And if I were going to cross-stitch one, like a little plaque for you, I think that's what I'd cross-stitch. The key to doing well in the reading section is to read carefully and make correct judgments and conclusions about what you have read. You don't need to read fast to succeed, but you need to understand what you read. So you've got to try, and this seems like counterproductive. It says, don't worry about the time, but then it says, manage your time. So, did you find that difficult, Joan?
45 minutes. The passages are pretty lengthy too.
And they say, here you go, and then stop. So what did you find as a successful technique?
I don't really know. It was really hard.
So
Like
time,
time, and then you had to read it over to make sure.
the points.
Yeah, so it's hard.
So if you were in my class in school, what we would have done is underline the important parts
Yeah, we
in it.
don't.
And you can't do that now. So you just have to rely on reading, as I said here, read carefully, make correct judgments and conclusions about what you have read. You don't need to read fast to succeed, but you need to understand what you read. And I believe there are yellow pages that you may write on.
Yeah, a tablet.
Yeah, kind of a erasable tablet, it said.
Can't erase it, but yeah.
Oh, they lied to me. Okay, and it says, reading the passages, as Joan said, always answer the question on the basis of what is stated or implied in a given passage. In other words, what does that say?
If there's something about the subject that you know, don't put what you may know, make sure that what you're answering is from the reading itself.
Exactly, exactly. We all know a lot about a lot of different things. And if the passage is on national parks and you visited every national park, and you happen to know that there's 6 waterfalls in the national park, and you read and the question asks you something that's similar, only put what you read. Make sure that you only put what you read, because you may overthink. And I know you all, and I know that we all do that. We overthink the answer. You get in that phase and you think, the answer is 6 waterfalls, but there could be 4 little ones over here. I'm not sure if they're thinking of those, but there are 6 big ones. And we do that to ourselves all the time. We overthink. We have this information, and those little file cabinets that we learned about in our head, those file cabinets sometimes come open and there are all the files. And so we're saying, don't use all those files. Use the ones that are stated within that passage and use the skills that you learned. Strategies for the reading test. Work through each set of questions completely before moving to the next set. In other words, don't fractionalize your answers. If there's 6 questions related to one passage, don't do 3 and say, well, those 3 at the bottom are, I'm not sure, maybe, so then you go on and read the next passage. And the problem there would be, what would it be? You're confused.
Go back.
Then you get really confused, and then you have to read 2 new sections, and then you're wasting time, that valuable time. Read the passage in the order that works for you. In other words, and Joan, you can correct me if if let's say passage number 2, it's a familiar subject, and it looks like I can do it more quickly. I could do 2 and come back to 1.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you take a scan of the test and you say, I can do 6, 1, and 4, they look good. I'm going to have a little trouble with 2. Do the ones that are going to come more easily to you. Does that make sense, ladies? Okay.
When you said 45 minutes, do you mean 45 minutes for the written portion or?
The reading. The reading is 45 minutes, I think. And then the writing is longer because you have the essay.
Yeah.
Because for writing is 35 multiple choices, 2 correction sentences, and then the essay.
Okay.
But that all is in one.
Yeah.
So you have to really check on your time when you're doing the essay.
So you need a little watch or something.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for my writing scores, so I'm kind of nervous about that. I have a couple days. Yeah.
Does the computer
It-
count down and show you where your time is, so you have that accessible?
Yeah, it's like on the corner, and when you're at 30 minutes, they'll say you have 30 minutes. And
No
it's
pressure at all.
it's supposed to pop up at 5 minutes, but for some reason it didn't do that for me. Yeah.
Okay, here is the site that I used a lot of the things I have from Pennsylvania Educator Certification Test. And you have a copy of both of the PowerPoints that I'm going to use. They're all there for you. And if I can conquer this. And this is what Joan was, one finger. This is the writing that Joan was talking about. The Pavel writing module consists of one extended construction response assignment. It should be a multiple paragraph composition of approximately 600 words. And you said
It has
about,
to be 600, and then can't go past 1,000.
okay? You will be asked to agree or disagree with the position, point of view, and to defend your position in writing and recent arguments and relevant examples. So, as we do in elementary school and from there up, you can remember your teacher saying, how would you feel if there were no more recess? What would you do? And then you write your position statement or write to the governor, write to the president. In essence, that's what they're going to do. They're going to give you a topic. It has you going one way or the other with it, disagree, agree. And then you have a lengthy writing assignment, and the object is to persuade them. Now here it says, you may use the booklet of yellow erasable sheets to make notes, write an outline, or otherwise prepare your response. Your score will solely be based on your response that's typed into the little box. So it has to be a pretty nice sized box for 600 words. Your response should effectively communicate a whole message to the specific audience for the stated purpose. A lot of this has to do with how you write, and we're going to talk a little bit about paragraphs and grammar. They're looking at all sections of your writing. And the purpose being in the world of education, you, the teacher, are responsible for writing a lot. You are the one that writes to the parents, you're the one that does the things for the children. You are the model for writing. So they want to make sure that you are using all the facets of grammar correctly, the mechanics of it. You will be assessed on your ability to express, organize, and support opinions and ideas. Your response will be evaluated according to the following criteria. Appropriate. Is what you wrote appropriate for the question? Address the assigned topic and uses language and style appropriate for a specific audience. If you're writing for, what is your audience? Who are you convincing? Are you assigned a topic to write to a child, an adult, a professional? Who are you writing? So you have to decide who your audience was and make what you're writing appropriate. Focus and unity. Responses clearly state and maintain clear connections to the main idea or thesis. Don't take a bird walk. When you're writing, if you're writing about, and I had a little topic here about, do you feel that a classroom with windows is a better learning situation than a classroom without windows? Respond. So what you couldn't get into, and they're asking, is it appropriate? Make sure that when you use language and style, you start it as you would a paragraph. Make sure your response is clear and states and maintains clear connections to why you prefer a classroom with windows. Don't start talking about the grades you had or the teacher you had or the day is pretty, which it is. But keep on target. These are the reasons why I learn best in a classroom with windows. Or these are the reasons why I need a classroom without windows because I get distracted very easily. And then you do supporting details and sentences to help convince whomever your audience, convince your audience that this is the best possible reason, that you really need windows to achieve, or you really don't need windows because they make you want to be outside when it's 80 degrees and the sun is shining. Not that we know anything about that. Organization is effectively and coherently sequenced from sentence to sentence and paragraph to paragraph. So as you introduce and then you detail and then you have another main sentence and another one, make sure that they progress, that they make a nice sequence. This is why I like windows. Here's this one, here's the backup detail, here's this one, here's the backup detail, here's this one, and at the bottom, what do you need? Your conclusion. Therefore, windows are the best thing to have, or non-windows. And you have to make sure that it stays coherent and sequential, and you don't go for those famous little bird walks. And that grammar and convention shows control of grammar. And that's, if I were going to tell you I was going to put a giant star there, control of grammar is absolutely critical. Shows control of grammar, sentence structure, usage, and mechanical conventions of spelling, punctuation, and capitalization. When do I punctuate? When is it appropriate for a colon as opposed to a semicolon? When do I write, how is that sentence supposed to look? You want to, if you are not sure, look them up. Try to rework yourself. You know, pretend you're in English class again. Grammar, all these words are key. As you're looking at that writing, is it appropriate what you're going to say? Have I focused on what I need, on my opinion? My opinion is I like windows in the classroom. So I want to focus on convincing my audience, maybe my audience is Rebecca. I'm going to focus on, I want her to understand that I need windows in order to succeed. I need that light coming in. So I'm going to focus and make sure my passage is unified on that theme. I'm going to organize it sequentially. These are the reasons why I think it's beneficial. I need vitamin D, so I need to be right in that sunlight. Or I like to look at the world. I get distracted easily, and that's why I shouldn't have classroom with windows. Make sure that it's relevant. Don't talk about something else. Stay focused on why Rebecca has to know you want to be a classroom with windows. Convince her. Don't talk about the price of windows, or you'd like pretty blinds on it, or you don't want any blinds on it. Why should she put windows in every classroom if she had that power? And make sure that your support is specific, support to elaborate on the main idea. And the main idea is whichever side of that topic you're on. Make sure that that's where you're going. And even though sometimes we want to write about, well, once I was in class and there was a horrible thunderstorm outside and I had no idea until I got out there. So I need windows. You don't want to get lost over here in the snowstorm or the rainstorm or whatever. And the grammar. Again, I'm reinforcing the idea to tune up on your grammar. Now, I just threw this in, and I'm sure you probably saw it before. It's a graphic organizer for paragraphs, and it's simplistic, but you know what? Some of the best things in the world are simplistic. This is your topic sentence for paragraph 1, which would be an introduction, a stating of what you plan to defend or go against. These are support sentences that back up your topic sentence. These sentences, however you may have, are the sentences that back up your topic. And then the bottom one here is your conclusion for that paragraph. In other words, this is the center. These are all. The first sentence should tell me as I read it, this is what I'm going to talk about in this paragraph. These are the things I want to tell you, and this is the bow that you tie it up with neatly. And I thought this little graphic that we use so often in classrooms is the best way to think about a paragraph. And as I was wandering the web, and I was looking at how many, you're all visual, I believe, aren't you? When you call, and I'm highly visual. So sometimes when I show you something like a graphic organizer, that's what you remember. this was titled The Perfect Paragraph. And oh, that we could all write a perfect paragraph. But it's on your little sheet there, topic sentence, supporting sentence, detail, optional is extra detail, optional, extra detail, and then conclusion. Just the idea that your paragraph doesn't have to be 3 sentences. It could be 5, right? We've seen very large paragraphs, but the one thing we have to remember as you're writing all these perfect paragraphs is, what do you have to remember while you're writing that?
Stay focused on what you're supposed to be writing
Yes,
about.
absolutely. And that you only have how many words?
600 foot out.
Yeah, so it's, I don't know about you, sometimes I can get off on the topic and blah, 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 and you don't want to get like to 450 or 500 and think, I didn't really go with I'm not focused enough, I didn't convince. So you have to be mindful of staying on your topic, you have to be mindful of supporting your topic, you have to be mindful of how many words you have left. So in my mind, I'm thinking I'm going to use that yellow paper to kind of pre-plan. I'm going to think about, okay, here's what I think about, which, do I want windows or not? And then I'm going to think, what do I need to say to convince Rebecca that I need windows? And then I'm going to put down bullets or little sentence or whatever to think, in order to convince her, these are the topics these are the main ideas that I can use, I can elaborate on with my detail sentences. And if I have, let's say I have 5 ideas that I've made like a little plan on that yellow paper, that'll give me a start on it. That'll give me some focus. Instead of just saying, oh, I can do 600 words. Let's see, I'm going to start out with and that you don't pre-plan. So what I want you to do is take a picture in your head of that very simplistic graphic organizer and think, when I set to this task, I need to plan my paragraph because it counts. I need to plan what I'm saying. I need to make sure that it sounds like it's written by a college student, not by someone in a lower grade. You need to use appropriate language and appropriate grammar and come up with perfect paragraphs. Okay, now in the front of this book, there were these wonderful little checklists. And I was not sure how to get, because the colors on it would not come out on a copier. So what I did was took a picture of it with my phone and then emailed it or messaged it to my computer and did that whole thing. So I then put it into your page there, and because these are the things as teachers and as students that I think really lead us into doing it successfully. Now, I apologize, it looks a little like it has a ripple, but I believe you can read what it has to say.
Mm-hmm.
How I planned my writing by gathering ideas and focusing my thoughts. That's prime. Did I shape my writing by finding the best way to organize my material? Did I draft by writing my ideas in sentence and paragraph? Now, I'm not sure that you're going to have time to do all that. So you're probably going to focus up here with, okay, these are my ideas. This is my thoughts on how I'm going to proceed. You're not going to be able to go through the whole the process of writing. But I would look at the editing part. Did I reread for errors in spelling? Did I catch grammatical mistakes? Did I catch usage mistakes? Did I look for punctuation areas? Did I check for capitalization problems? I would look at this. This is essential to this. So if you can just think about planning ahead, gather ideas and focusing your thought, and then do your writing, and then go down here and look at spelling, grammar, usage, punctuation, and capitalization. I think then you'll be a winner with your passage. Okay, here's my other masterpiece. Dot the i's and cross the t's. And again, this is another essential part of this paragraph writing or this passage writing. Commas, use a comma too. Semicolons, colons, parentheses, hyphens, quotation marks, apostrophe, and writing numbers. One of the things on writing numbers is spell out numbers from 1 to 9. A lot of people don't do that. Spell out numbers from 1 to 9. There is a complete list of, if you're confused with your colons or your semicolons, if you're going to list within your passage some different thoughts or equipment or whatever, do you use a colon or do you use a semicolon? Or do you just use a comma? This will help you with that. This will help with that grammar. And spelling, I struggle with spelling every day. So make sure that that when you are writing, use words you're sure of. If you're thinking of hypothetical and you aren't sure how to spell it, go to your little file cabinet in your head and think, is there another way I can say this? That doesn't sound like you're two, but if you're not sure the spelling, don't take a chance just because it fits beautifully. Or do your spelling. Okay. And there I am, my little thought about Windows. So if you were going to write for me and you were going to start this, find another little piece of plain paper in that lovely pack of paper. If you don't have one, I will get you some. Is there another blank back?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's say this just popped up on your screen on your computer, and you look at it and you say, I need to have at least 600 words on this. What am I going to do? What is the first thing when you do that and it pops up on your screen? What is the first thing you're going to do?
Decide what position you have.
Right. Immediately you decide you're a window person or a non-window person, right? Okay, so now you have your focus. Your focus is the window. What's next?
Supporting details. Jot down your supporting details.
Yeah? Write some thoughts. What are your thoughts about windows in the classroom? What are, like, if you're going to write this, what's one thought you might, what is one detail you might write?
Natural light.
Natural light? Natural light. Okay, so you're going to talk about maybe in one of the paragraphs, natural light.
Mm-hmm.
What's another idea about that? You have to convince Rebecca that you want windows. She's not going to change without a powerful paper here.
Feeling of isolation if there are not windows.
Okay. We have to convince her. Come on, give me some more stuff to give her 'cause she's gonna really be,
Save on lighting costs.
save lighting cost. So you're working on the economics of the, college.
Yeah.
You're gonna give her more money if she puts windows in everything we don't need lighting.
Connection to the world.
To the world, okay. So if you look, if each one of these becomes a paragraph, are we gonna convince her? I mean, we have to do one more thing.
Have to conclude.
We have to conclude, and within that conclusion, we have to say,
To restate our position
right,
and kind of summarize our points.
put in a bow, put in a bow, think of that bow, all, at the end of each one of these, and then it's a giant bow. Because when she reads that, maybe Rebecca already has a thought on her, an opinion of her own. And you have to convince her, because she really thinks that windows, you'll focus better on your work if you don't have windows. So you're gonna have to make her want to put windows in. Will these four do it? That's Channel 8. Will these do it? And just standing alone, they're probably not gonna do it. But what's gonna turn it into a powerful,
Write it.
the way you write it, the way, the style you use. And remember to, it's your audience, it's Rebecca. You wanna convince Rebecca. So your writing has to have that kind of tenses, watching the tenses, the pronouns, everything you're doing. You have to focus on and keep it sequential. Don't get lost in, natural light and how good it is for me, and I didn't get enough vitamin D, so at least while I'm sitting here, I can get some. Or, you know, by the way, you're saving money on lighting, so why don't you buy us lounge chairs to sit in because we're facing the sunlight? So you just stay away from the bird walks. Remember what you're doing. Remember how you're going to look at what your topic is. You're going to think, okay, which side of the topic am I on? Then you're going to write down some key points for your paragraph. Turn them into the main idea of your paragraph with supporting details and conclusions. Then you are going to, when you are on Word 575 or 550, you're going to start with your conclusion, wrapping up all of your main ideas and their supporting details, so that after Rebecca reads that, she stands up and says, yes, windows for all.
Revolution.
Yes, windows for all, I say. Everybody gets a window. All right, I'm trying to decide which way to go here, my friends. I think we'll go to reading next and go over the objectives, then we'll go to the tests. You have a copy of the tests, and we'll go over those and then go through the questions and talk about each question. Will that meet your, under your wanna learns on your KWL? Will that meet your needs for what you wanted to learn?
Yes, I do have one question under my want to learn that we did not cover.
Okay.
How close is this test to the PEC test, or former praxis test? Is there similarities? Does anybody know the answer to that?
The PEC test is more on the development of the children, the formation's the same, kind of, like the computer, the way you take it on the computer.
Three
But-
modules as well?
Yeah, 3 modules, but the questions are totally different because it's on development. And scoring is different also. Scoring is less for the PEC than the PAPA test.
Like it weighs less as far as?
Yeah, like, you can get like 197 for like the first module, but for these, you have to get 220.
Okay.
And they're both out of 300 points.
Well, I am grateful, you know,
Yeah, I
that,
took the PEC already.
yeah, that
And
you
then-
already did
And
this.
then they were like, you have to take the PAPA now. That's why I was like, what? And when I took it, and when I took my PEC exam, too, so like, yeah.
So you are very knowledgeable on this. You can be a guest speaker on what it's like.
And for the PEC, if you have a good GPA and you don't pass one, they have different scores that you can pass with if you have a good GPA. Yeah, like you can get like 163 for module 1 if you have a 4.0.
Wow.
So it
It
helps a lot
behooves you
if
to have a 4.0.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I didn't do well in my history part of it,
Mhm.
and I have a 4.0, so then I passed it.
That's awesome. Yes.
Good job. So that's another good reason, if we had that question, we could put that as a good reason to have 4.0. There it is. Okay, shifting gears from writing to reading. What I did in the writing PowerPoint, which is also in your little packet, is basically list the objective, tell what it is, determine the meaning of words and phrases used in a variety of text. That's the objective that you're going to be working with. And then underneath it, I listed some of the information they're looking for and a website you can go to. Now, all of this is on the web. I just lifted it from some of the many websites that have helps learn from this test, or some of the state ones, but I just thought it might be handier for you. It's right here, you can wham bam, there it is. So the first one is determine the meaning of words and phrases used in a variety of text. Any simpler way to say that? What do you think they want you to do?
Comprehend what's written?
Yes, and why did they add, I want you to know those words, but why did they add in a variety of texts? Why is the text important?
Because they're going to present you with crazy different texts like balloon framing and whatever
Oh,
else there was on there.
yes, and in certain different texts, different words mean different things, or a phrase. Several of your questions on that practice test was a phrase that literally meant one thing, but within the text it meant something else. You can use those websites. They will guide you to the practice for that objective. I keep wanting to go in a different way. Recognize purpose, main idea, and organization in a variety of texts. There's that variety of text thing again. They want you not to just be able to find those in a basal reader or a reading text, but they want you classic literature, or it may be in a how-to book, how to install your Windows. Be able to recognize the purpose of what you're writing. What did the author, why did they write this? Did they write this so I would know how to do something? Did they write this for my reading pleasure? Did they write this to get something off their chest because they were angry? Why did the author write this? And then practice passage portion of the reading test, reading comprehension practice. And the last one is tips for recognizing purpose, main idea, and organization. So that last site is probably an excellent one to go visit. Analyze, this is objective 3, analyze and evaluate ideas and information presented in the variety of texts. And then under that, it has ever clauses, cause and effect relationships. And as teachers, I'm sure you've all worked with cause and effect for children. As early as kindergarten and first grade, we talk about this happened, which caused this to happen. What is cause and effect? Distinguish between fact, opinion, belief, or prejudice. Assessing evidence used to support an idea, how to critically evaluate and support an idea, tips for analyzing and evaluating ideas. Which brings me to, because I thought this was such a consuming thought, I did a little handout, but it's not little, it's big, where I cut and pasted evidence, which it seems to be important to that part of the test. And I think, while I don't think you need to memorize this, I think this is something that you can use to become aware of evidence, because it's part of that objective, and it's, read through it, you may already be absolutely perfect with it, you may need just a little brush up, and at the bottom it has to sum up when evaluating an argument's evidence, your first task is to analyze it. And how many millions of times have we talked about analyze so far today? Identify the point the author is trying to prove. Do we need windows? Identify the specific facts the author gives to support the claim. We have natural light. It connects to the world. We're not isolated, and we're saving money. Explain how the evidence is supported to relate to the claim. Then you must evaluate it. In this class, that means 3 things. Is it sufficient? Is it relevant? And is it representative? So, those are the 3 words when you're analyzing a passage or reading. Is the evidence sufficient, relative, and representative? And then I did a little more on comprehension. My feeling was I'd rather over-prepare you, give you more, and you make the choice what things you feel you need more work on. But I thought evidence was something that we don't classically spend a lot of time on that. Four is analyze. We're analyzing some more. And evaluate ideas and information presented in the variety of texts. So again, we're talking about if you are looking at my ideas for, yes, here it is. That sounded awfully familiar. There were 2 fours. There's 2 fours.
Oh, okay. Oh, 3, 4, and,
4.
okay.
3, 4, and 4. 4 is make inferences from ideas and information presented in the variety of texts. Practice passage portion for reading, critical thinking stages. Critical thinking is an important phrase. Identify tone of the writing. What is tone?
What the author's trying to convey, or make you feel?
How do you feel when you read this? What is he angry or she? What is the tone? Are they instructing you? Are they convincing you? What is the tone of identifying tone and the purpose? when somebody is trying to, what is writing instructions for installation of mirrors and windows, that tone and purpose is not going to sound the same as an election speech. There's a completely different tone. Doesn't sound the same at all. Tips for drawing conclusions. How to bring all that writing around and tie it up in a bow. Okay, my buddies. That was a quick, or maybe not so quick, overview of maybe I don't have. Okay. Not sure what that little thing doesn't want me to do, but I'm not doing it. So, in order to get into some practice or information or clarity on some of these wonderful questions, how about if, and I believe you each have a copy, right? Yes. All right. Let's start with writing first, because that was, yeah, I need a little water so I can be mindful of my time and not waste it. Okay, we are doing writing, and as we look at it, I was going to go one question at a time and just talk about the question. Will that be useful for you? Does that work for you? Such as, number one, which of the following words would be most effective to use in the bank in part 5? Now, what is most important in that question? What is the thing you, as the careful, analytical reader, see in that question that's important?
Most effective?
Yes. Okay, so they want to know, of all the words that are there, of those 4 words, which word is most effective? Does anybody remember what they put there? Actually, you all did pretty well. But is correct. I should have M&Ms or something to make this more fun. Okay. Number 2, which of the following words underlined in the paragraph should be replaced to eliminate a vague expression? What are the key phrases there? There's several very key indicators on what they want. Actually, I might even say it gives you some limits to what you're looking for.
Eliminate. I guess when I look at that, I focus on eliminating the vague expression.
Vague, and vague means what to you?
Too broad.
No boundaries, vague expression, but what else should you as the answer person also know? That vague expression should be
Underline?
replaced.
Oh.
Maybe it was, which of the following words underlined in the paragraph need to be thrown out, replaced, to eliminate a vague expression? So, which of those underlined words is really very vague? It doesn't add anything to the, which one is it?
Situation.
It is. Congratulations. Good job. Which of the following parts on number 3 is important? Which of the following parts contain an error in the use of a verb? What are you keying on?
Grammar with the verb usage.
Yes, grammar. We're into grammar and it's verb usage. And they're talking about is the verb used in the right tense? And when you look at it up there in 1, no, I just gave you the answer.
Yeah, part 1.
What is the verb?
Have, should have been, should be had.
They developed tall organizational structures that will have,
Would have.
Yeah.
that will have as many as 14. And that's saying it's going to happen in the future. So the answer is part 1, because the other 2 agree. Will have is wrong or misplaced. Question 4, and if I'm not mistaken, question 4 was the one, the objective 11, which was most missed. It was, which of the following sentences, if inserted in part 1, would provide the most effective introduction to the paragraph? So there they were, remember at the beginning I said, key in on some of these words, most effective. Now, that means to me, the best one. So which one is the best introduction to the paragraph? Because the introduction to the paragraph is sentence 1, and all the rest of that paragraph is detail. So which one is the most effective?
C, but I have to say, this is one of the ones I marked as a question because I guessed between B and C. And I really, it's hard because B is so applicable because they're listing all the objectionable features throughout most of the paragraph. So
Remember, the first sentence is the one that says the main idea. What is the whole idea? Any other thoughts on this?
The same thing, I actually had chosen B, but the correct answer being C.
Yes, it is C. It is C.
I think the thing that helped me to determine C was the very last sentence. How can any civilized society tolerate such a brutal sport? When it came down to it, I thought the first sentence and the last sentence should be directly related.
Good job. Okay, good job. You used that main idea, detail, conclusion, which used that. C is correct. It was the one most missed. Which of the following parts should be revised to eliminate a dangling modifier? The $100 question is, what is a dangling modifier?
And I didn't have the answer to that, so I had it wrong.
I always thought it was something that was used before or after a comma to clarify the sentence.
A word or phrase that describes something that has been left out of the sentence. A word or phrase that describes something that has been left out of the sentence. So, which one of those has a dangling modifier? And I'll make this easy so we aren't here until 9 o'clock tonight. It's between A and B.
B.
Thoughts? I hear a B.
It's B.
Joan, do you agree? Maybe you want to write down or look up what a dangling modifier
I
is.
did do that. Yeah, I know.
A word or a phrase that describes something that has been left out of the sentence. And it is in part 3. What is the word or phrase that's been left out?
I must have got lucky because I looked at the sentence and I said the first half of the sentence really
Wasn't
is relevant
quite-
to
yes.
the second part.
Exactly.
Okay.
They don't really, they start talking about bruises, but they don't really name it, right? It's just, when you think of dangling, it's something that's just dangling there. It doesn't have any roots. It doesn't seem to be connected.
So if they had actually named the manner, like the move, that would have kept it from being a dangling modifier?
So as long, it's a word or a phrase that describes something that has been left out of the sentence.
Okay.
See, at the beginning though, it says, having been trained to exploit cuts around the eyes and other weaknesses in their opponents. So they are mentioning that in the beginning part of it.
But
Is it
having
the way
been
it's-
trained in, what are they describing? When boxers step into the ring, their sole aim is to inflict as much punishment as they can. Having been trained to exploit cuts around the eyes and other weaknesses in their opponents, the manner in which the boxers go about their business is particularly ruthless. So while it fits in there, you would say, it doesn't really, we don't know what the manner is that they're talking about. What is the
It's something
manner
that-
in which we were taught to do this? Do we know? We don't know that manner. It's dangling there. It's not, it's describing, but it's not connected really. Worse, a growing body of evidence shows conclusively what all punishment does to people. So the manner in which you're hitting somebody and bruising is up here, and then down here we're talking about beating people up, and so it's not a real pretty thing. So dangling participles are not easy things to find, but I liked Lee, what was your way of figuring it out?
That the first half was unrelated to the second half, between, using the comma as a separator.
Right, that's a good technique. Does that help, Joan? Which of the following changes should be made to correct an error in the use of a pronoun? That's number 6. Which of the following changes should be made to correct an error in the use of a pronoun?
C, change which to who?
C. Yes, correct. Any questions with that one? Oh, something big must be happening. But we have a window, so we don't have to worry about it. We know the sun is shining. Okay, question 7. Which of the following words or phrases would be most effective to use in the blank in part 5? What is the focus in that sentence that you should be aware of? What words are the focus in that sentence?
In the question,
In the question,
Okay.
yeah,
most effective.
most effective. So now I know that when I'm looking through this paragraph, I'm looking for what phrase or word would be most effective. And that, what is it?
D, friendliness.
Friendliness. Friendliness. Now 8, which of the following words underlined in the paragraph should be replaced to eliminate an ambiguous pronoun reference? First of all, that has a whole lot of stuff in it, doesn't it? As you read that, you go, ooh. And what is probably, where should you focus most on that? What words there just like kind of pop out at you?
Eliminate.
Eliminate and
Ambiguous.
ambiguous, yes. Because what is ambiguous? What does that mean, Rachel? If you say something's ambiguous, what does that mean? Not sure? If it's ambiguous, it is something that you're not, ambiguous means it is telling you a specific, pronoun. An ambiguous pronoun is one that doesn't really clarify its purpose. It can be a pronoun for a whale or cars or whatever. It's ambiguous. It isn't, you aren't sure. So which one of those pronouns seems ambiguous?
There.
It says, about halfway down the Baja Peninsula, in a lagoon visited yearly by California gray whales that spawn in their warm waters during the winter months. Why is it ambiguous?
Not really their waters, but, and you could do without that word. You could say spawn in warm waters or
Right.
spawn in the warm waters.
Does that help, Rachel? Does that make sense to you, or, yeah? How about Joan?
Yeah, I think I did. I just took it out.
You could eliminate it. Without there, the sentence would be all right. And, you know, these are not written easily. They're there to cause you stress. So that's why when Joan said that the timing is important, the timing is important. I know that's a really great sentence, I just said. But as I went through those, the reading of these sentences, or these questions, is so critical to your answer. Because you may not should be replaced to eliminate an ambiguous pronoun reference. So if you have to, you have to move through those words before you get into what you're doing. Number 9, which of the following sentences, if inserted as part 6, would provide the most effective conclusion to the paragraph? So what are they asking? What's most important there?
The conclusion,
And they want it to be
The most effective.
the best you could possibly write, right?
Mhm.
That's one of the objectives. I have it written down as objective 11. So, which is within the writing. Which one is it? Which is the most effective conclusion in that paragraph?
it is time to begin acting on that realization.
Good job.
So ugly though. I don't like that. I don't like it.
There were a couple in here that I was not fond of, but, it's one of those things, they're the boss.
Mhm.
Whether we like it or not, doesn't matter. They're the boss.
I don't feel like it reflected going back, like tying a bow. I don't feel like it tied in a bow.
There wasn't a bow there.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a knot. Which of the following parts should be revised to eliminate wordiness? What are they telling you there? How do-
Eliminate.
What is to eliminate,
Take out unnecessary stuff.
right, get rid of all those words. Cut to the core. Remember we talked about looking at analyzing and making sure that it's focused and on target. So, what eliminates wordiness? Which parts should be revised to eliminate excess words?
3.
B.
3.
It's like a run-on.
Moreover, the potential economic benefits of offshore drilling are not nearly as great as people who think there is much to be gained believe. Yeah, that's kind of ugly. That is a whole lot of wordiness
Yeah.
there. So the lesson to be learned there is when you write, don't get wordy. Number 11, which is objective 11. Which of the following edited versions of part 3 is most effective? They love that word effective. Did you notice there's a lot of most in there and most effective? Which one is most effective?
So when Asian herders carried milk in goat skin bags, the bacteria warmed by the Central Asian sun likely transformed it into yogurt.
Sounded delish, didn't it? Yeah. I don't know where you are on your yogurt, but I like it in the refrigerated section of my local store. Yes.
That one was nice because the answers gave you clues, because you had 2 that started with the word so, and I thought, that's interesting. I bet you those are the 2 closest ones, and then I was able to narrow it down.
Okay. Good thought. So what I'm hearing what I'm hearing, especially from Lee, is her teacher talk, which is really test taker talk. It's the talk you do to yourself to try to get yourself through it. And maybe if there's concerns, strategies to find out how to do this, strategies. Which of the following words is, here's this word again, most effective to use in the blank in part 6? Which of the words is most effective? Joan, do you have a thought on that?
Instead.
D is correct, instead. And that's another objective, that's objective 12. Which of the following on number 13, which of the following edited versions of part 5 is most effective?
C. Cuckoo Bird's a bad house guess.
Now, we're looking for the version of part 5 is most effective. Remember, we're gonna cut to we don't wanna be wordy, we wanna stay on focus, we want to say it and get out of there. And it would be a detail sentence. So, a good thought for it would be
C.
A.
What?
On 13, there is nothing peaceable in the nature of those creatures who take over a space like bad house guests.
It says C in the answer key though.
Oh, I made a mistake? Oh no, my first ever mistake. C, cuckoo birds are bad house guests selfishly taking over a host next instead of peaceful sharing. Yep, okay, good girl, thank you. Okay. So it should be C. May I borrow your pen a minute? Pencil. Thank you very much. All right, which of the following sentences, if inserted as part 3, would be the most effective topic sentence for the paragraph?
I thought this was an easy one because the other ones were so clearly able to be eliminated.
Yes.
For D.
Yes. D. Okay, we have like 40 of these. Do you still want me to continue through these, or would you like me to switch to the writing one?
Can we, go over the ones that we got wrong, that we know we got wrong?
Do you have your, I know I got wrong thing?
Mm-hmm.
Because I have, I have Joan Booz. Anderson? No. I have Rachel's writing sample. Rachel, for sure. Right there. I summarized, like, oh, you have
I do
yours.
have mine.
I have mine as well.
Well, guess what, I have yours too. Okay, everybody has theirs then? All right, I will need you then to guide me because I don't have a composite of, my thing on what you had right or wrong is in objective order. So if we are at 16. How about if I just say does anybody have 16 that we need to go over? 17? We're all good?
Mm-hmm.
18? All right. 19. Okay. Which of the following sentences, if inserted on part 5, would provide the most effective, what's the word? Conclusion, the bow tying thing. Which one of those sentences ties up the passage, brings it all together and ties it in a bow? Which one should it be?
Probably A, which is not what I answered the first time.
Well, see, look, we're growing, that's good. Does everybody agree with A?
Mm-hmm.
Is there any question about it? What do you see now that you didn't see?
Just going back to my original strategy of tying in the conclusion with the first sentence, I didn't do that here, and I chose B based on the sentence before that. They were talking about simplicity and using low-cost materials, and that a large number of homes could be constructed in a given area. So my natural thought was that they would then go into detail about where it was most widespread. So that's why I chose B, but now I see that I should have chosen A.
Okay, did anybody else miss that one beside Lee? No? All right, how about our friend the dangling modifier?
That was me again.
That dangling modifier, and you picked which one?
I picked B.
But it should be,
D.
right?
Mm-hmm.
You see it now or not? Part 4. Because of its simplicity and use of low-cost material, large numbers of homes can be constructed in a given area of minimal expense.
The only thing I could see that might have
Dangle.
Yeah, would be that given area part. It's not describing given area, because it does, that beginning part before the comma,
Makes sense.
it does, and it relates to the second part, which kind of doesn't work with that strategy that you used before, because the low-cost materials then relates to the minimal expense. So I would have really struggled with this one even now, knowing what a dangling modifier is. That given area, I guess, is what
Right,
causes it.
yeah. It's a word or a phrase. It can be a word, it can be a phrase that describes something that has been left out of the sentence.
That one,
That given area would be it. Okay.
and that one,
Yes.
the reason I got that was process of elimination. That was hard.
Yeah.
Okay? Everybody else all right with that one? 21? Does anybody need 21? No? 22?
I didn't get that correct, but let me see why.
What is that word in there that causes you to have to look at it?
Ambiguous?
Ambiguous. Okay. Which of the following words underlying the paragraph should be replaced to eliminate an ambiguous pronoun? Which is a pronoun that doesn't really tell you anything. It's ambiguous. Is there one of those pronouns?
Okay.
See, there,
I see why the answer is C.
there.
Why is it C?
Because their use of the word there doesn't indicate whether they're referring to the organization or the actual Jaguars.
Who's goal?
Right,
Right, who's
right.
goal?
It's ambiguous. You don't know to whom it belongs. You aren't sure. That,
Not to play devil's advocate, but then the word in that same sentence, whose, is not
their
pronounced.
goal is to ensure satisfaction.
Because it's still vague,
Whose.
that's vague, so is, who's
But
not
it
pronoun?
relates back, there, but there you know, there you know, the whose seems to be the cats.
Because of the word.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
To ensure
Okay.
safe passage for the cats, whose survival
Oh.
depends on migration between regions.
Yep, got it.
Does that work?
Yep, got it.
If you don't, the best way to do this is to talk it through.
Yep, I got that.
All right,
Thank you.
we're good with 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. And then there's one of those parts of speech, you have to be sure that you are familiar with adjectives. Think about adjectives are always the modifier of the nouns, they add just flavor to the noun. They describe, they give it color. All right, how about 29? What does that mean? There's an error in agreement.
It's, the relationship of using the right pronoun, I guess?
The sentence parts match. Subjects must agree with verbs. Pronouns must agree with antecedents. Antecedent is a noun the pronoun stands for, which is like a substitute, going in for a substitute. So, in other words, the noun and the verb have to agree, and the pronouns have to agree with the noun that they're in for. Are we okay with that one?
Mm-hmm.
The answer is A. 30, any problems with 30? 31, an error in spelling. See, that's where I would have been weak, because I was taught to spell differently because of my 4,000-year-old age. 32, error in spelling, another following the spelling of what word is correct, spelling, which of the following spellings, more spellings, which of the following sentences contain an error in capitalization. Now they're getting into all those mechanics. Any problems with 35, 36, or 37?
36 I had wrong, and I'm assuming that it is because monarchy does not need to be
Right,
capitalized. Okay.
right. Right, they just threw that in there
Yeah,
to,
I thought president, I struggled with president, but it's not actually addressing him as president, so.
yes.
Got it.
You are correct. 38, punctuation. 39, now they went into the mechanics again. Punctuation. 40. Okay, are we good? Any questions?
Suspicious one, and I need to figure out where.
Joan, do you have any
No. just for
ones you were,
reading.
pardon?
Just for reading. The one thing I really struggled with during the PACA was which sentence should be moved before this one, or should it be eliminated? That's why I really struggled with it.
They're very hard
And I don't
and,
understand those. I was like, how are you supposed to know if you should eliminate it or move it before another sentence?
it's just
Because it just all sounds
perfect the way it
Yeah,
was.
it's just like, I'm like, nothing, but it's like, that's not the,
Maybe looking to make sure that if it's a conclusion sentence, and then a detail after it, make sure that it's a detail and not a conclusive sentence.
but it's always in the middle.
Middle.
It's always in the middle, that's why I'm like, I don't know how you know if you should move it, or you should, I know if you should delete it, it's like, if it's not just a random sentence. But a lot of it's like, should,
Sequence.
should 3 be before 4, and then they have like 3 other sentences after this, and you're just like.
They just want to cause you
I'm just
emotional
like, I don't know how you're
disturbance.
supposed to Cause like English isn't my first language.
I was
either,
just
so
gonna
it's
ask
hard.
you that, cause you are not thinking in
Yeah, so
English.
it's, yeah, it's even harder because English isn't my first subject, and so it's like, I don't know. It was really hard for me to take the test.
And that's what I thought. Your first language is how you read things,
Yeah.
and your first language is how you think. This is, I mean, if I had to take this in Spanish, I would think in English, and then the grammar or the mechanics of Spanish would be very difficult for me. So I don't know if there is any type of, I want to say version, or how they, because it's almost bilingual that you're struggling with.
Yeah, and they had a lot of those questions, like, where should we move those sentences? I was like, what? I don't know.
What I would do is practice with what you know here, the right answers, and see if that helps. But thinking in one language and doing it in another is so difficult. That's,
Yeah, that's what, and I'm not a good tester here either, so it was like, on top of that whole thing, I was just like, and then I ran out of time at the end too, because I had
'Cause
to
you were-
reread a lot.
because you're thinking in, what is your native language? Vietnamese, you're thinking in Vietnamese, which is nothing like English.
Yeah.
So that's a question I would have about that. Because you almost need an ESL type adapted. I don't know, but that's, you're
That's a fair
taking.
question.
Yeah, she's taking, that's the first thing I thought about, was that you're probably reading it in your native language
Yeah, it was
and taking it in your
really hard,
second
and I was just
language.
like, oh.
Aw. Rachel, any questions that I can help you with? No?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay. Sharon?
No, I'm okay.
Lee, did you find your,
I did, I think I figured it, well, maybe, okay. So number 15 was that whole passage there about the farming and Rudolf Steiner.
oh, yes, the organic,
Yeah,
or
there,
spiritual, isn't it spiritual?
I think what gave me trouble on this is they asked the question, number 15, about editing versions of part 4, but part 5 is missing, and for me,
You can edit without 5.
exactly, so I had to go through, I did 16 first, answered that, and then went back and tried to answer, I think I guessed, and
Well, I think it was, excuse me, I think that was a good strategy. Anybody else have that problem where you had to edit a version for an incomplete passage? Did you have any trouble with that, or did you use the,
I had 16 wrong, so I would not have worked well with that strategy. I had 15 correct.
you
So
had
my-
it correct?
I had 15 correct, I had 16 incorrect, so I'm not sure that would have
Where it
worked
broke
for me,
down.
but, yeah.
It's objective 12 is 16.
Mhm.
So if you have
Yes.
that. That's one that I have to honestly tell you, I looked at 16 a couple times till I came to where they had it. I don't think it's especially easy,
Mhm.
you know, and that's one of those better best, you know. You just have to go with your gut on it, and, because I was like, oh, wait a minute,
yeah.
you
Because they
know.
go from following the moon cycle
Yeah.
to biodynamics, and it
Yeah.
seems like a pretty sharp contrast, but
And I think that goes back to what we even talked about last week. When I take the test, I will definitely, when I see dangling modifiers in the question,
You're gonna.
I'm gonna go right over that and say that to the end.
Good
You
idea.
know, 'cause I know that's a problem.
Right, if you know that there's an area that's going to take you some think time, go to the next one, go to the next one. Just don't get confused between passages.
That would be the hard part about this with the passages.
Yeah, because they're written in a way that you have to interpret it,
Mhm.
which leaves you at a disadvantage. And if you read something too many times, everything looks good.
Right,
You know, so usually they say go with your gut.
right.
If that's one that tricks you, put it out of your mind, come back and go with your gut, because it's a problem. It is a problem. Some of them seem ambiguous, you know. Well, this goes, but so does this go.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to go with, think about what their objectives are, take good looks at their objectives, and then think, now, is it sequential, you know, is it a main focus? Think about what it is that they are asking you to look for. And again, like I said before, it doesn't mean it isn't confusing. Okay, let's give reading a whirl here. And, oh, wow, time flies when you're having fun, ladies. How about if you give me the numbers that you would like to go over?
I'm okay.
How about 1? That was a tough road to hoe, and it was, what is it? We talked earlier about using a phrase differently.
Be a difficult challenge.
Yeah. Anybody need help with 2? 3? 4. And if you look at it, and again, I'm just gonna, accurate, which of the following summaries of the passage is accurate? Summaries and accurate. Statements best assess the author's objectivity in the passage. So part of those things were, what is the author's purpose? Best supports conclusion. So if you have a good handle on what a conclusion is, what a supporting sentence is, work on those grammatical, like that little thing on the different parts of speech. Work on what a paragraph is. So when you look in those paragraphs, and Joan, when they're saying, does this fit better here or here, you know, see if you can figure out where all those details are, and then think about sequence. You're good with that. I know you are. How about, as you look over your paper, anything else? Most clearly a statement of fact rather than expression of opinion. Fact and opinion. If it's fact, it's something that you can look up. If it's opinion, it's somebody's feeling on things. A lot of things on the author's ideas, which would be a point of view, right? A lot of vocabulary words. If you don't know the word, what is the best strategy you have within the test to help you with that?
Well, I would first of all, if you don't know the word, I would try to eliminate things that absolutely don't make sense in your choices.
Right?
And then try to read the sentence before and the sentence
After.
After to see if you can get, those context clues.
Before and after. And if there's any part of the word that you can decipher through another language, you know, sometimes there are words that you can get from other words. Lots of conclusions. So if you're good at finding conclusions, which of the following sentences from the passage is a general statement rather than specific detail? Again, general statement is one that is not a defined fact. I mean, it can be a fact, but specific detail is, the general statement just says the sky is blue. A detail would be the sky has several gray clouds in it, the sun is shining, and, you know, the sky is blue is very...
Can we look at number 9, please?
Absolutely. Number 9. How would you pronounce that word?
Pecuniary?
pecuniary. And I looked at that word too, and what I did was go back up into the, cause I don't know that I've ever run into that word.
Yeah.
And so I thought, now if I'm taking this test, I need to know what that word is. So in part 3, paragraph 3, as one of the details, it says, people produced much of what they needed had become what the Linds called a pecuniary society. Pecuniary.
That tripped me up because I think I saw the word agricultural community, I saw the phrase producing much what they needed, and I associated that with farming.
I got into money.
Yep. Money is the correct answer.
And the only way I got that was from reading the text, because I did not, because picayune is, when somebody's picayune, they're very picky. So I knew that wasn't right. So I had to go back up there and look around to see what, in order to earn money to purchase goods and economic, I picked out some of the key words there to help me figure out what that word was, because I didn't know what that word was. It's not one of my words.
You don't use that in everyday?
No, I don't. Anybody else have a question they want to? So, on your list, did we cover what you wanted to learn? I hope we covered what you wanted, and if not, I'm still here.
Well, I did have one question on the sentence correction.
Okay.
Okay, that first one, and I thought about she and I took a bus to the airport, but we should have taken a taxi. And then I ended up with, we took a bus to the airport, but we should have taken a taxi. Is that incorrect?
I don't believe it is incorrect. It's their preference.
So, they wanted the she and I because it changes the least amount to make the best correction, would you assume?
I would assume that, yes.
Okay.
Yes. I think they wanted to show that you had the knowledge to use the pronouns correctly, which, I can be me, and, there are several pronoun laws, to put it in a certain way, that they wanted you to show that you could use. We is a nice, comfortable way to do it. They obviously wanted you to do it.
She and I.
Show your stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they only ask for 2 corrections too, so.
Right.
Usually it's just,
So then actually, the 2 corrections where the we wouldn't work is that you're technically.
you're taking out 3 words.
3 words.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it really was literal like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
That makes a lot of
Yeah,
sense too.
and you have to type it out, so you
Right.
have to make sure it's typed right.
Okay. All right,
That's
I'm ready
good.
for that.
That's
Did
good.
anybody get 35 incorrect?
Under reading,
Under, reading.
Mm-mm.
35. The author's primary purpose is B. Describe the Delaware Canal and its contributions to economic development in Pennsylvania.
Okay. I think, and that, I don't understand that because how are they, where's the economy in that passage? Are we supposed to infer that the lumber, the building stone, lime, and agricultural is accumulatively viewed as the economy?
Well, what they're talking about is how there were 1,248 miles of canal before the railroads, and that by creating the most important of these waterways constructed in the state was 60 miles long, built primarily to carry anthracite from the state's coal region to urban markets. The canal was 5. Now the conclusion sentence, mule-drawn boats moved the 1 million tons of coal a year from Delaware as well as large quantities of lumber. And they're saying, and if you read that, if you get stuck, read the conclusive sentence.
Okay.
in that conclusive sentence, it says mule-drawn boats move more than 1 million tons of coal a year on the Delaware, as well as large quantities of lumber, building stone, lime, and agricultural produce.
Okay.
So it said, B says, describe the Delaware Canal and its contributions to the economic development in Pennsylvania. So what they're saying indirectly was, in the conclusive sentence, it said, it brought this, 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 and this,
Mhm.
which are all part of the economy of Pennsylvania.
Right, okay.
Does that make sense?
It does. I see, and I think my rationale for D was explaining why they dug so many miles was so that they could move all of that stuff. But that's
You were
okay.
thinking too much.
Yeah,
Go to the conclusion. If you get stuck in this, like, which is the author's purpose or things, go to the conclusion of the paragraph and see what they're tying it up, what the bow is, and that can help you with what is the purpose of the paragraph or the passage, or, does that help? Now, I ran another one of these passage things, and the answers are on the back page. So if you want to test yourself again, or practice, actually, practice would be, I would go through those little lists I gave you, the little checklists. If I wasn't really sure about my grammar or I needed backup, that book is excellent on what to do. And the other thing I have here, and I'm not sure if you all want these or not, I don't think I've given to you already. It's a glossary of reading terms. Has things like antecedents
Oh, yeah.
and things like that in it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. A glossary of reading terms. What more lovely parting gift could that be?
you care.
I do care. See, I show I care. A glossary of reading terms.
What a wonderful gift on a bright
I
sunny
know.
Saturday.
I mean, isn't that better than 80 degrees and sunshine?
Right.
Oh,
It'll be hot.
yes, yes. Well, my dears, it's been a pleasure, A,
you.
seeing you again, B, teaching you again, and I wish for you much success. And I hope that when you take this test, I'm talking in your ear. Just ask.
One
Oh,
finger, one finger.
yeah, just talk in that one ear for you. And hopefully it helped. I hope that it helped.
Did you have any input or advice based on our writing?
That was a good question.
I did not get to read them all.
Okay.
I will email you because I have everybody's
Okay.
email.
I was
We
just
had a
very
little,
curious about that.
we had a pretty big family crisis this week, so I have been trying to be the best I can.
Wonderful as well.
It's getting much better. It's much better, yes. It went